Hello all you lovely cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic and today we're going to be reviewing Syndrome, a sci-fi survival horror game that was developed by Camel 101. The game's story places you in the role of Officer Galen, who awakens from cryosleep aboard the Valkenburg to find out that most of the crew are dead and those who few survive don't trust each other and you're not sure who to trust yourself. Everything's going wrong, there has been a mysterious device or person picked up, you're not sure which, and after that point everyone started going insane and killing people, and people started changing physiologically as well as psychologically. And the game is essentially very much a psychological, or it tries to be a psychological sci-fi horror game, in the sense that it's very trying to be a cross between Aliens Isolation and Dead Space in that respect. But is it any good? Well, sadly it isn't, and there's multiple reasons for that, so let's go through them. It's trying to be, like I've said, a cross between Aliens and Dead Space, and it doesn't succeed in really either fashion. Now, the great thing about things like Alien Isolation and Dead Space 1 were that they took the survival horror genre and they added a little bit of psychological things going in there, and ultimately what they provided was a really good overall experience. Syndrome does not. Syndrome provides a interesting start, but then the atmosphere and everything that would you consider horror, and all that tension, all that atmosphere, that dark, boding, psychological thriller vibe, it drops off midway through. And after that point, particularly enemies, if you think about enemies, you start off not really being able to defend yourself, in a really vulnerable position, and as you progress you gain weapons, and after that point enemies don't really become that frightening anymore. They are more of an annoyance. They become cumbersome because you want to get on with the story and you have to deal with various enemies, and they are frankly annoying in every respect almost. Furthermore, one of the major problems with the game is the overall look and aesthetic. Now, it is an indie game, so I'm not expecting it to be of AAA standard. However, the textures in this game, especially for a game that is set in completely closed quarters, it's set aboard a ship, it's supposed to have that claustrophobic feel. So it's not like you have a giant landscape to fill with textures and assets and art design. You have a ship, which is essentially corridors for the most part. And the textures in this game look awful. Everything in this game looks awful. Textures, lighting, it's all bad. And it's not bad as in the sense that it looks the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but it's bad. And especially when you are creating a game in a genre that completely relies on its atmosphere, on its visuals, on its audio. You have created something that looks like crap. And it actually affects gameplay to the point that it becomes annoying, because you have various storage containers that you can loot, but everything looks that bad that everything kind of just blends into one, and you can miss things really, really easily. On top of just the game looking really bad, bad textures, and don't even get me started on the character animations and the character models, because they look awful as well. But technically, the game technically runs rubbish. I mean, you're talking about a game that I spent, over an hour trying to get to work, and then spent another 40 minutes after that point. Every single time I would get 10 minutes into the game and I would have to use a console, and there was no other way around this console, and it would freeze the game every single time, to the point where I had to reload the game and reinstall the game 3 times to finally to get it to work. So this was a game-breaking bug that I was able to repeat. It wasn't just a one-off, it wasn't something that I was doing wrong. It was a game-breaking bug in a part of the game early on that you needed to progress, and it wouldn't allow you to progress. That in is of itself is just unacceptable. Add to that the numerous bugs, graphical glitches. You know, I'm talking about walking through walls. You're talking about flickering. You're talking about assets going up and down through walls. All that kind of thing. It's all in here. Syndrome is a buggy mess. On top of the fact that it is a buggy mess, you also have the control scheme, which isn't that great. I mean, I'm talking about controls that are sometimes sluggish and unresponsive. You talk about character animations that sometimes don't even work. Like, for example, when I'm trying to swing my weapon, the animation doesn't even play. Then you also have various problems with the AI. So the AI, the pathing problems. You talk about enemies just disappearing and then reappearing. Invisible enemies, I had that. That was fun. An invisible enemy that wasn't supposed to be invisible, but decided not to show up and then was able to basically kill me because he was invisible. So that was a lot of fun. Great job on that one. The technical state of this game is appalling. It's supposed to try and give you this claustrophobic horror feel, and it doesn't do it one tiny bit. The game is ugly, it struggles to hold an atmosphere. The story is probably the most redeeming feature of the game. Now, while it is completely unoriginal, I have no problem with an unoriginal story. I have no problem with that. As long as the unoriginal story is executed well, I have no problem with that. And the voice acting in the game isn't that bad either. I actually got into some of the characters, and it created that sense of intrigue because there was multiple crew members who were telling you different things, and they were telling not to trust the other one, and that was fun, and I liked that. But there's so many problems with this game. There's so many problems that it's funny. You look at the Steam page and you see all these indie awards, like the Indie Games Play finalist and all that. And I'm like, how did this even happen? How does a game that is technically so bad to the point that it has multiple game-breaking, progression-stopping bugs in it get awards? I have no idea. It's like we're playing two different games. And I've tried. I've looked and to see if it was just my machine, and it is not. It is not just my machine. I've tried 3 different machines, and they all have the same problems. This game is a technical mess, and for that reason alone, not mentioning the fact that it doesn't really do a good job of being a survival horror game. Forgetting that fact, just on the technical problems alone, there is no way in hell I can recommend this to anyone. I would not recommend this even to fans of the genre, because I don't think they would get anything out of it. I think that they would wish they were playing something else, and I think that the technical problems in this title would hamper somebody that much that you would instantly refund. I mean, I'm talking about a game-breaking bug within the first 10 minutes of the game. You haven't even finished the complete tutorial. You haven't even got your first weapon yet. And there was already a game-breaking bug within the first 10 minutes. That is so problematic. This game is clearly not been tested enough. That is so problematic that it is shocking that they are going to release this in the state that it is in. So in conclusion, it looks like crap, it plays like crap, and it runs like crap. So definitely, this is one to stay away from. The game's name itself is kind of ironic because now every time I think of Syndrome, I think of Bad Game Syndrome, and that is what I think. So make sure there's no way I would recommend this to anybody. I think it is definitely one to avoid unless they over the next 3 months, really work out those technical issues and improve the graphical textures, because it is on PC, for God's sake. It's not like this is a, PS2 port. This is a PC game, and you have textures in a corridor that are so pixelated that I can't even see what it's supposed to be. So, unless they did some drastic changes in the next 3 months, it is definitely one to avoid. So that is my review of Syndrome. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, do like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will see you next time.